What's up, guys? Welcome back to Daddy Dimes Radio. Today, we're talking about everything that's been going on here in college football today, and then we're going to pick back up where we left off last episode and look at my fantasy football team that I was showing last time and see how we have progressed from there. But let's go and start with college football update, starting with what already has happened this morning. Air Force in the first minor games defeats Navy. They stay undefeated, 7-0. Air Force could finish, honestly, if they stay undefeated, definitely top 10 ranked team in college football. Then Oklahoma survives. They also moved to 7-0 to stay undefeated, barely beating UCF. Their ranking may go down, but most likely not because, as you already know, today's college game day, Ohio State beat Penn State 20-12 in a defensive matchup where neither QB played well, but even with that, Marvin Harrison still had a monster game, and Penn State's defense looked incredible. And Ohio State moves to 7-0. Penn State moves to 6-1, and I really lost a lot of faith in Penn State today with that QB play from Drew Allar and just no movement at all from the offense. But then the games that are going on right now, as we get into, currently Tennessee up 13-7 at Alabama. 38 seconds to go in the second quarter. Tennessee has the ball on the Alabama 11. We'll get a score update if they go for it, kick the field goal. We'll see in just a second. But just going through this game, honestly, kind of two similar quarterbacks in the way they play, with Alabama's Jalen Milroe and then Tennessee's Joe Milton, obviously the transfer from Michigan. Tennessee has looked really good except for that big loss to Florida, and Alabama has looked really good except for that loss to Texas. Although every one of their games has been close, and we'll see if Tennessee is the first one that's going to be able to close it out. Obviously, Alabama going back, they barely beat, I think it was South Florida, and then just last week they barely beat Arkansas. They've had a lot of these close games. In fact, let's go run through all their schedule. Started off, blew out Middle Tennessee. Obviously lost to Texas, but they played well that game, and Texas is a good team. They did end up beating South Florida 17-3, but it was very close to the end of that game. Able to beat Ole Miss 24-10, able to beat Mississippi State 40-17, just barely beats Texas A&M 26-20, and just barely beats Arkansas 24-21. And all those teams are good, so you can't say they're just bad for barely winning those games, but they're just awfully close to getting that second loss and fully eliminating them from the college football playoff, when really they have to win out to get into the playoff. So I'm not high in Alabama, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pick Tennessee to go ahead and win the rest of this game. And they did go for it. They're now at the Alabama 8, 18 seconds to go. We'll see if they can punch it in. 2nd and goal from the 8. We'll get another update from that in just a second. The other game live right now, 44 seconds to go in the second. Oregon up 17-10. Two very solid Pac-12 teams. Pac-12 might be the best overall conference in college football this year. Oregon obviously coming off that close loss to Washington, possibly the game of the year so far last week. And Washington State has played well and has a great quarterback in Cameron Ward. Although, of course, Oregon has Bo Nix on the other side. So look for that game to be close to the end as well. But I think Oregon should pull this one out. Right now at halftime, Missouri is up 24-3. We'll be talking about my K-State Wildcats here in a second as they play TCU tonight. But one of their two losses comes to Missouri, and that loss continues to look better as Missouri has played great. They're going to move to 7-1 as long as they hold on against South Carolina, and their only loss is in a high-scoring shootout where they barely lost to a high-powered LSU team led by Jalen Daniels. That continues to make K-State look better. Missouri also is one of the best receivers in the country in Luther Burden. who definitely torched K-State back when we played them. Tulane up 21-0. Tulane beat K-State last year in the third week of the season, so we had a little repeat there. Tulane up 21-0 on North Texas. Obviously, it doesn't matter too much, but it is a ranked matchup as Tulane is at number 23 right now. Iowa ranked at number 24, who, if you saw on College Game Day earlier today, they're 6-1, despite being last in many offensive categories. They're only up 10-3 against Minnesota at halftime, and obviously Minnesota is not a very good team, but they should pull that one out. And then 8th ranked Texas doesn't defeat. There's 7 minutes to go in the second quarter, but they're already up 21-0 on Houston, and we already knew this wasn't going to be a game in the first place. Texas will look to move to 6-1 if they hold this one out. Rest of the night, got some more big ranked matchups. Florida State versus Duke in a key ACC battle. Florida State, really, I think if they have one loss, they won't make the playoff. If Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and then Washington or Oregon win out, it's just hard to argue for an ACC team unless North Carolina or Florida State go undefeated. Duke has a chance to beat Florida State here, but Florida State, I think they will win this one. Duke, Riley Leonard's questionable. I don't know if I'm not going to look really, but I don't know if they've made that game time decision yet, if he's going to play. And if he doesn't play, I think it's already over with Florida State's high-powered offense led by Heisman candidate Jordan Travis, and then one of the best receivers in football, Keon Coleman. Ole Miss takes on Auburn in an SEC matchup. Ole Miss should win that one. They're ranked 13th, 5-1 with their only loss to Alabama. So look out for them as a sneaky SEC contender here, especially if Alabama loses to Tennessee, which Tennessee did score a touchdown, 20-7 Tennessee with 12 seconds to go. So it looks like that'll be the score at halftime. Alabama on upset alert over there, just like last year. And then the biggest game remaining after that game for the night, 14th ranked Utah, 18th ranked USC. Huge Pac-12 matchup there. USC did not look good against Notre Dame, and I think Utah's defense is better than Notre Dame's. So I want to say Utah. It's tough, though, because definitely Cam Rising still out, I believe, facing a very good USC offense led by Caleb Williams, obviously. It's going to be hard. Even if Utah's defense plays great, it's going to be hard for Utah's offense to keep up with USC. But Utah beat USC twice last year. I think they'll do it again tonight. It is a home game for USC, so they do have a 7-point spread. But I'll go against the spread. Take Utah to win that one. And then that's basically all the matchups for today. North Carolina plays Virginia, but that should be an easy win for them. So then we'll get into a non-ranked matchup, but a team that could move into the rankings with a win tonight, and that's my Kansas State Wildcats taking on TCU. So let's go ahead, pull this game up. Obviously, K-State has losses to Missouri and then Oklahoma State on the road, which obviously we should have won that game, but Oklahoma State did go in and on their home turf again was able to beat our rivals KU, who is a very solid football team this year as well, as much as I hate to admit it. ESPN's giving K-State 64% chance to win at home, but I don't think it'll be quite that easy. TCU, still a very, very talented team, even though they lost a lot from that team that made it to the national title game last year. Obviously, they got blown out by Georgia. And obviously, K-State beat TCU in the Big 12 championship last year. So a little bit of bad blood between these two teams. They split the series last year. TCU won in the regular season. K-State won in the conference championship. Tonight, my key things to look for is how can K-State throw the football. Obviously, this is what everybody's thinking. Will Howard has looked a little rough all season, not looking like what he did last year when he came in for Adrian Martinez. But then last week, we saw a huge rushing performance, 5 rushing touchdowns, most all time for a true freshman quarterback making their debut. Avery Johnson, incredible game against Texas Tech, really led us to that win, even though it should have probably been easier against a kind of weak Texas Tech team. Look for Will to still get the start tonight, but shared possession, shared snap count, I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think if Will can get back to his old form, K-State can be a real threat, because really I feel like Will's the reason we lost to Oklahoma State, and he kind of played a big role in why we lost to Missouri. We scored a lot of points, but we still had turnovers that game. Um, on the ground game, though, Will can run it, and then obviously Avery is a great rushing quarterback. If he can throw the football, he's exactly what this program needs right now. But then we also have two great running backs with senior transfer from Florida State, Ward. He's a great pass catching back. But then on the more of the ground game, DJ Giddens, I believe he's just a sophomore, backed up Deuce Vaughn last year and showed lots of potential, and he's lived up to that this year. 541 yards on the ground already with 4 touchdowns. He's been a monster. We can feed him definitely. On the receiving end, Ben Sinnott leads us in receptions. He's always been great, but teams are really going to be focusing in on him, and he's really an easy target when Will Howard or Avery Johnson are struggling with the way he can get open. But when they're closing in on him, our wide receiver core really a lot weaker this year after we lost Malik Knowles and Cade Warner. We still have Phillip Brooks, but he's not built for that number one role. He likes to work off of others. We've got Jaden Jackson. We've got Keegan Johnson. Neither of those guys have been able to prove themselves yet, possibly because of our quarterback play. But we're going to need a receiver to step up tonight. And I just don't think it's going to be Benson. I think it's going to be a wide receiver. If Benson it does step up, he's going to be our most reliable option. But look for a lot of running. And if Avery Johnson gets most of the passing attempts, look for him to have under 15. If Will Howard's the starter, I think you guarantee at least 20 passing attempts, just because that's how we roll with Will Howard. But that could always be subject to change. I really don't know too much about TCU. I've only watched their game against Colorado, which obviously looked at first like a great win for Colorado, and then TCU hasn't looked that good since then. Colorado hasn't looked good since then. But TCU, like I said, still a talented team that was able to bring in a lot of recruits and transfers after they made it to the national title game, with their new coach, Sonny Dykes. So big matchup tonight for the Wildcats. We'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead, and we won't spend as much time on it as we did last time, but let's look at my fantasy football teams, see how we're looking. I will say I'm not in great shape right now, but I'll go ahead, share my screen. Give me just a second. All right, we should be good. Last time I forgot to do this because I hadn't done it in a while, and then took another break here. But I think we did this around week 3 of fantasy football. Now we're in week 7. I'm sitting at 3-3 in this league. I'll show you guys 2 leagues like I did last time. These are my 2 main leagues. This is my 10-man league, which I really thought I had a just tremendous team, but we really struggled, and we're down to 3-3. Should have an easy win this week. Chris Olave only gave me 12 on Thursday, but we're playing a fairly weak opponent. As you can see, we've got some problems, though, and we also have problems on our other team. Christian McCaffrey, questionable. Garrett Wilson with a bye. Debo Samuel out. Kyron Williams out. Devon Achane out. Tons of injuries. Tua, he's always going to be our solid starting quarterback. Jonathan Taylor, he's back now. I moved him in there this week over Kyron Williams. So this is my first time playing Taylor since he's been back. Plays that great Cleveland defense, but he should have the majority of the snaps now over Zach Moss. And I'm just thinking if he can just replicate what Zach Moss has been doing all season, and basically just be Zach Moss, he's going to be great for fantasy. Chris Olave gave me 12. Not terrible, just below projections. Still sticking with Puka Nacua as he still looked solid since Cooper Kupp's return, playing the Steelers, and Debo Samuel and Garrett Wilson both out this week for me. So obviously got to play him as well as Jordan Addison in the flex, who still kind of a boomer bust guy, but without Justin Jefferson, he gets that spot over Jerome Ford for me. And then Sam Laporta has been my great waiver wire pickup tight end, who will just always be my starter. And Tyler Bassett at kicker. Chiefs defense. Could switch out the Chiefs defense, but I'm fine with it. I don't really care that much with an easy matchup, even though they're just predicted 4.6 against the Chargers. And let's move to my other team, which has a few more complications right now. So this is my other main league, 12-man league. Let's see. I've been trying to make some moves. I think here I tried to get Rashee Rice, just trying to get some basic trades because I can see here before we scroll down to my bench, my wide receiver core is looking absolutely terrible right now with Christian Watson, Josh Reynolds. Did get solid performances from Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne on Thursday Night Football to give me a chance. But I'm playing 6-0. I'm playing a guy who's 6-0 this week when my team is at its weakest. So definitely not a good time to have my hardest matchup of the regular season with how my team's looking because as you can see, I just traded the week before this Jonathan Taylor for Garrett Wilson, and I did not realize he had a bye week the same week as CeeDee Lamb. That's really hurt me. And then Tank Dell, he's been hurt the past couple of weeks. He's had a bye, and that's just been a tough situation. And then I'm choosing Christian Watson, Josh Reynolds over Tutu Atwell and Kendrick Bourne. Obviously, Josh Reynolds' projection a little lower. I think we have to start Christian Watson out of those four. And then Josh Reynolds has honestly been solid this year. Definitely a boomer bust guy. But so are Kendrick Bourne and Tutu Atwell. And Tutu, he actually hasn't looked too bad, even with Cooper Kupp returning. But he's a wide receiver 3, possibly 4 over there. And Josh Reynolds is the same. But I think the Lions move the ball around a little more than Christian Watson. I think he's a wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. It's tough with him, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. But obviously, we're going to need Bijan Robinson to finally take that next step this week. Same with Alexander Madison. Both have been disappointing. Obviously, Bijan was a top 10 pick for me. I think I took him with the 6th or 7th overall pick. And Travis Etienne has outperformed in every which way, which is great. Great to have him. I almost took Jahmyr Gibbs, I remember, in the draft over Etienne. Obviously, Etienne's been much better. Running back 3 so far this season, had another great performance this week. But I expect more from Bijan. I need him to put up, I would say, at least 20 points this week for me to have a chance, unless Madison has at least 15 and Bijan has 15. But I just don't see that happening from Madison. He's going to always give you points because they're always going to have him in the offense, but he's never going to give you anything big. He doesn't get touchdowns, doesn't get receptions, and really he can't even do anything once they hand the ball to him. He just gets 2 or 3 yards, and that's how you get your points. And now that they have Cam Akers, who knows what's going to happen? He might completely steal that RB1 spot. Plus, they're playing that tough 49ers defense. But again, he's my only option unless I wanted to play Tyler Higbee, a tight end at flex, or Kendrick Bourne or Tutu Atwell. And then Falcons defense, Young Hook, he doesn't matter too much. Hunter Henry is questionable. Yeah, I'll go ahead and move Tyler Higbee in there for Hunter Henry. Honestly, pretty similar most of the time. So with Hunter Henry questionable, we'll just go with Higbee. Anyways, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. See you guys next time.